But is there a relationship with private companies, private business? Yes, that's important. We need to unleash Canada. Unleash it, because there are actually chains that are holding back our businesses, individuals, Canadian. We need to free them of these chains.
The honourable member, if he wishes, will have about 35 seconds to finish the Q&C. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Don Valley North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As we celebrate Italian Heritage Month, I rise to recognize the remarkable contribution of the Galati family in my riding of Down Valley North. The Galati Market Fresh Grocer has served our community for more than 25 years. Founded by brothers Tony and Francesco Galati in 1958, this family-run grocer, built by Italian immigrants from Calabria, has grown into a beloved local institution. Whether supporting local growers or giving back to families and schools, the Galati family reminds us that the best ingredients for success are hard work and a deep commitment to community. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In Nanaimo, Ladysmith, the addictions crisis is not an abstract policy debate. It is on our streets, in our parks, in our shelters, and in the lives of families who are praying their loved one gets one more chance. Too many people are trying to get clean while living next door to the very thing they are fighting to escape. That is not compassion. That is setting people up to fail. Nanaimo needs every kind of housing, including sober housing. We need safe, stable places for people who have chosen recovery, people who want to rebuild their lives without being surrounded by drugs. This Monday, June 8th, Nanaimo City Council is convening a special Governance and Priorities Committee meeting to discuss the urgent need for sober housing in our community. I am pleading with this government to pay attention and to allocate a share of federal housing funds for sober housing in Nanaimo, because recovery needs more than hope, Madam Speaker. It needs a home.
The honourable member for Mount Royal.
June is Filipino Heritage Month. It is a chance to celebrate the amazing Filipino-Canadian community that has enriched our country in so many ways. It is a chance to celebrate the culture and traditions of the Philippines. It is a chance to celebrate Dr. Jose Rizal, the founder of the modern Philippines, who championed patriotism, education, justice, and civic duty, values shared by the Filipino community today. In my riding of Mount Royal, which is the heart of the Filipino community in Montreal, we will have a large number of events. I want to thank the Filipino Heritage Society of Montreal and its president, Al Abdon, the Council of Filipino Associations of Quebec and its leaders, Dario Boco and James de la Paz, the Filipino Association of Montreal and Suburbs and its president, Jojo Loud, and the Knights of Rizal and its regional commander, Jerry Danzel, for hosting these events. Let's all join together and say, Mabuhay ang Pilipinas, long live the Philippines.
The honourable member for Kapuskasing, Timmins, Mushkegwan.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Speaker.
Proud to recognize a rising young leader from northeastern Ontario. Alexandra Gauthier from Shillington near Matheson is one of only 20 recipients across Canada of the TD Scholarship for Community Leadership, one of the most desirable awards in the country, awarding recipients a full post-secondary scholarship and summer employment. Alexandra represented Ontario's 2 million school students through the Ontario Student Trustees Association. And Alexandra, who went to school in Iroquois Falls, was only one of 2 recipients from Ontario. Alexandra
is an inspiring example of leadership, driven by a desire to serve her community. It fills me with pride and optimism to see young leaders like Alexandra shaping a future for all.
With pride and optimism to see young leaders like Alexandra Gauthier shaping their future.
L'honorable député d'Orléans.
The honourable member for Orleans. Madam Speaker, from June 17th to 25th, Orleans will have exactly 1,871 graduates from its 8 high schools, and they will be celebrating one of the most important milestones in their academic journey, their graduation ceremonies. This journey is marked by perseverance, growth, and success. They have acquired the tools they need for the next stage of their lives.
Inspiring to personally sign each of their certificates. I want to congratulate each of them. You did it. Félicitations. Vous avez réussi.
Congratulations, you made it.
La Présidente, I would like to recognize Orléans resident Sarah Siddiqui, a PhD candidate at the University of Ottawa and recipient of the 2026 Learner Changemaker Award from the Association of Faculties of Medicine of Canada. Through her leadership, she has advanced student supports, equity and inclusion, and strong clinical care across Canada. Congratulations, Sarah, and thank you for inspiring us all. Merci.
The honourable member for York Durham.
I'm rising today to recognize Caroline Mulrooney, Member of Provincial Parliament for York Simcoe, who retires from politics today. Locally, Caroline's legacy is historic. She pushed through the Bradford bypass connecting highways 400 and 404. She championed the new South Lake Hospital in Queensville, and she was responsible for the creation of the North Gwillimbury Forest, preserving nearly 1,000 acres for future generations. And she made sure that the Ford government approved a state-of-the-art phosphorus reduction facility for the health of Lake Simcoe. She was and remains a principled, reasonable conservative, never overly partisan too. She always supported Conservatives, no matter the stripe. She always said yes, always took my calls, and always gave honest, prudent advice. I know she's a proud mom and a loving wife too. Caroline, you will be deeply missed by our community and by me personally. For everything you've done, thank you.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Ottawa Centre.
Great joy to celebrate the great Glebe Garage Sale in my community of Ottawa Centre. If you're happy to be in Ottawa, in my community, third Saturday of every May, the Great Glebe Garage Sale is the place to go. For 40 years, neighbors have been participating in this sale. You can get such incredible, great deals and hidden treasures that people have stored in their basement. It also acts as a fundraiser for Ottawa Food Bank. 25,000 people came out this year. It was incredible. My team was there as well. So I just want to thank the Glebe Community Association for organizing this incredible event every year, to all the volunteers, through John Crum, the president, June Krillman, the vice president, and Sam Woods, who coordinated the 40th anniversary, the 40th version of the Great Glebe Garage Sale. Congratulations to everyone.
The honourable member for Richmond Centre, Marple.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to recognize Airport Workers' Day and to pay tribute to the thousands of dedicated workers who keep Canada's airports operating safely, efficiently, and reliably every day. As the Member of Parliament for Richmond Centre, Marple, home to Vancouver International Airport, I see firsthand the vital roles played by these workers in connecting our communities, supporting our economy, and strengthening Canada's links to the world. They are the engineers, ground crews, security personnel, cargo handlers, maintenance staff, emergency responders, and logistics professionals whose hard work often takes place behind the scene. Last year, YVR welcomed a record 26.9 million passengers and handled over 365,000 tons of goods. These achievements are a testimony to the professionalism, dedication, and excellence of airport workers. On June 25th, National Airport Workers' Day, let's thank and recognize their outstanding service and contributions across Canada. Thank you.
Député Jonquière.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Madam Speaker, this year we're marking the 100th anniversary of the foundation of Arvida, an important industry in my riding. It's recognized as an exceptional model of urban planning. It stands out for its architecture and the remarkable diversity of its unique workers' neighborhoods. It played a determining role in the building of Quebec through the aluminum industry. It has an important legacy. It is a National Heritage Site of Quebec, and it's been recognized by the National Assembly in Quebec for its exceptional value for Quebec culture, and it's potentially has the criteria to meet the UNESCO Heritage List. I want to recognize their exceptional value on this 100th anniversary of Arvida. I want to underline how important it is to the aluminum sector and to our sector. Happy 100th anniversary.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley West.
Madam Speaker, June has arrived, and in a few weeks' time it will bring cheers of proud parents and the tossing of graduation caps as high school students across Don Valley West accept their diplomas and start the next chapter of their lives. It's at a time of immense excitement, marking the culmination of years of hard work that now opens the door to a future filled with endless possibilities. To the many teachers and administrators in Don Valley West, thank you for your tireless dedication to nurturing the bright young minds of our community. To parents and guardians, I extend my warmest thoughts as you balance the many emotions that come with such a momentous occasion. Finally, to the graduates of Don Mills Collegiate Institute, Leaside High School, Mark Garneau Collegiate Institute, and Northern Secondary School, as well as the many middle school students about to enter high school, I offer my best wishes as you start your next adventure. Congratulations. Félicitations.
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George.
Madam Speaker, it's my favorite season of the year, rodeo season. Prince George, Quesnel, Vanderhoof, and in my hometown, the greatest show on dirt, the Williams Lake Stampede. The dust is rising, the countdown's on, and before you know it, rodeo season will be gone. From near and far, for 98 years, they packed the stands for the sweat and the tears. The Williams Lake Stampede is second to none. The roping, the riding, the legendary fun, where cowboys ride and cowgirls fly, and city folks learn about dust in their eye. The Williams Lake Stampede is more than a show, it's community, tradition, and full-blown rodeo. To the volunteers, competitors, handlers, and sponsors too, we tip our hats for all you do. If I've said it once, I'll say it again, you son of a gun. We're the best there's ever been. It's the bulls, the blood, the dust and the mud, the roar of the Sunday crowd. It's the boots, the chaps, the cowboy hats, and they call the thing rodeo. Yeah!
The Honourable Member for Spadina Harbourfront.
Last weekend, I had the pleasure of attending the 13th Canadian Screen Awards right in my riding of Spadina Harbourfront. This annual celebration recognizes the very best in Canadian film, television, and digital media. The industry gathered together to cheer on Canadian legend Mike Myers, who received the show's Icon Award. The Toronto-born comedian has made us laugh for decades here at home and around the world. From North of North and Law & Order Toronto, Criminal Intent, to Le Fury and Honey Bunch, so many of the stories that kept us glued to our screens this past year were honored. As we kick off Pride Month, I was happy to see Heated Rivalry recognized. This powerful series has touched the hearts of so many and reminds us of something simple but important. Be yourself, fully and proudly. This is the impact of Canada's film and TV industry. And Madam Speaker, I am especially glad that our government is supporting this sector, investing $450 million over the next 3 years, championing the important work of this vibrant and essential part of our economy. At a time when the world wants what Canada has, we are yearning to hear our own stories. Let's celebrate our incredible talent. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Madam Speaker, last year, Canadians thought they were electing someone with exceptional economic skills who could strengthen our economy and quickly negotiate a deal with the United States. Well, it's become increasingly evident that we've been duped. Under the Liberals, Canada has the only recession in the G20. We've now suffered economic decline in 3 of the last 4 quarters. The Parliamentary Budget Officer paints a grim picture, saying there's only a 1% chance the Liberals will meet its own fiscal targets. As for businesses, they are retreating for investment amid soaring uncertainty. Liberals claim to be cutting costs, but they plan to hike personnel expenses from $69 to $86 billion by 2031. Then there's their $72 billion in deficit borrowing this year alone. This is not just numbers, it's diminished paychecks, fewer jobs, and strained households. Canadians deserve better than a Liberal government that has lost its way.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Les Pays d'En. Thank you, Madam Speaker. On a more positive note, I have the honour to speak today to highlight the amazing work of a young athlete from my riding, Eliane Blais. Just 16 years old, she's already a 4-time Canadian junior mountain bike champion, all while continuing her studies. After a serious accident, surgery, and rehabilitation, she joined the elite category in August 2025 and won 2 medals at the Canada Games. On May 2nd, she placed 9th in the Czech Republic, and on May 31st in Sherbrooke, she won a bronze medal, and she will compete in the Canada Cup. Eliane Blais is a real inspiration for all young people in Canada. Her ambitions are impressive. Although she's the youngest on the circuit, she's aiming for a top 10 finish at the World Junior Championship in Italy this summer. This is exactly the kind of passion for the sport that explains our $755 million investment in young athletes. Thank you, Eliane, for representing Canada so well on the international stage.
Honourable member for Calgary-Crowfoot.
Well, Madam Speaker, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country in a recession. This was reported last Friday based on Statistics Canada's negative growth data. Then yesterday, the Parliamentary Budget Officer reported that there is only a 1% chance that this Liberal government's fiscal anchor will hold. They also said that the Liberals are borrowing $72 billion this year, not $65 as they budgeted. Yesterday, the Montreal Economic Institute said that the deficit is on track to hit $117 billion by 2035, even if they don't add any new spending programs. Scotiabank and the Bank of Montreal both released dismal economic growth projections. Stats Canada also reported labour productivity is falling. This Prime Minister promised fiscal restraint. He promised competent management. He promised Canadians that he was the man for the moment of crisis. But under his leadership, Canada is in a Liberal recession, his budgets have no credibility, and it's Canadians who have to pay for it.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Nipissing-Témiscamingue.
Madame la Présidente, after more than 5 decades in business, Laura Landers of Laura's Art Shop in Cobalt has retired, closing the doors on a remarkable career that helped shape the artistic and cultural life of the Témiscamingue region. For 45 years, her shop has been a destination for artists, collectors, tourists, and residents alike. Laura promoted the work of countless Northern Ontario creators, and she helped to showcase the beauty of Lake Témiscamingue through her support to Tour du Lac Témiscamingue programming and celebrated Cobalt's rich mining heritage through her own artwork. Laura's art shop became one of Cobalt's top-rated attractions, with visitors praising her knowledge and dedication to sharing local history and culture. I'd like to wish Madame Laura Landers congratulations on an exceptional career. Your legacy as an entrepreneur, an artist, and ambassador for Cobalt will continue to inspire many for many years. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan.
Madam Speaker, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country in recession. Now, we're glad to see that more Canadians are working this month than last month, but we're down over 20,000 jobs since the beginning of this year. We're still expecting negative growth, and we have the second highest unemployment in the G7. Simply put, we're comparing to a worse baseline. This should not be the new normal for this great country. Why is Canada the only G20 country in recession?
The Honourable Minister. Speaker, you'll appreciate that this morning we woke up to some incredibly good news for Canadian workers. The Canadian economy added 88,000 jobs in May alone, mainly in the private sector and mainly in full-time work. Job growth in May was broad-based across all industries, but get this, Madam Speaker. Since December 2024, Canada has added more jobs per capita than the United States, Madam Speaker. We have incredibly good news from one coast of this country to another, and we're celebrating today for
the Honourable Member for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan.
Madam Speaker, I want to be clear that it's good news that more Canadians are working this month than last month. But we have to be honest about these numbers because the government House Leader is eager to cherry pick. We have 24,500 fewer Canadians working today than were at the beginning of the year. Compared to pre-pandemic averages, unemployment is up by 0.6% overall and over 2.5 points for youth. Under this Liberal Prime Minister, we have the second highest unemployment in the G7. Madam Speaker, having the best job numbers in Canada shouldn't be like having the best bobsledding team in Jamaica. Canada is the only G20 economy in recession.
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families. Order!
Well, Madam Speaker, I'll just pass by the obvious material in that question to focus on what's important, which is jobs. And jobs for youth, that member that has spoken many times about the importance of creating good jobs for youth, and in fact, 99,000 new jobs for youth, Madam Speaker, that's something to celebrate. In fact, here's what Benjamin Rates from the BMO said. He said the solid May jobs report should silence the people who are talking down the Canadian economy. He said, you know, this should silence the recession crowd. I guess he's speaking about the member opposite, Madam Speaker. While those guys are running down Canadian opportunities, we're focused on creating jobs for everyone.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan.
The so-called recession crowd is literally the analysts at Statistics Canada. Here is the fact. Canada is in a recession under this Liberal Prime Minister. And let's talk about youth unemployment. The pre-pandemic average for youth unemployment was 10.8%. We are 2.5 points above the pre-pandemic average. Now, the question for the government is this the new normal? It shouldn't be. It should not be the new normal. We should be back to where we were. A recession is not success. Canada is the only G20 economy in recession. Objectively, Madam Speaker, why?
Well, Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of time and respect for my colleague, but the reality is he didn't read the news this morning.
Oh.
Really, I think he took his notes from yesterday and he's trying to keep the same narrative today. The reality is, indeed, we're in job creation mode. Indeed, notwithstanding the trade war, which the Conservatives never acknowledge. We are dealing, indeed, with unjustified tariffs from the U.S. We were able to create 147,000 jobs in this country. Last month alone, 88,000. We're building the economy and building the country strong.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent Akiawenrek. Madam Speaker, here's the reality from yesterday and still the reality today, and unfortunately it might still be the reality tomorrow. Canada is the only G20 country and the only G7 country in recession. Madam Speaker, let's look at housing. We have hyperinflation that continues to have a devastating impact on young people. Young people are losing the dream of owning a home, and one family in 3 won't be able this year to pay for all of their mortgage payments. That's the reality. Can the Minister, the Honourable Minister, Madam Speaker, you'll understand that we are very proud of the results that we've delivered for Canadian workers this morning. 88,000 new jobs created in May alone. The unemployment rate has dropped. And for my colleagues' information, the unemployment rate in Quebec, which interests myself and my colleague, he's from Quebec. The unemployment rate in Quebec is the second lowest of all the Canadian provinces, Madam Speaker, led by construction, led by the manufacturing sector, and led by young Quebecers. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent Akiawenrek. Well, Madam Speaker, on this side of the House, we're always happy to see that Canadians are finding jobs. But at the same time, right now, there are still a net loss of 24,000 jobs since the beginning of the year, Madam Speaker. He wants to talk about young people. The reality is that youth unemployment has gone up. But the Parliamentary Budget Officer was very clear yesterday, saying that he's 99% certain that the deficit anchor won't work. That's the reality of this government. Is this government able to say that, yes, Canada is the only G7 country in a recession? The Honourable Minister of Industry. I know that my colleague is passionate about the economy, and we've spoken about it many times, but I also know that he's a man who likes numbers and facts. But the facts are that the numbers are clear this morning. Not only have we created 88,000 new jobs in this country, but on top of that, he's quoted the increase in youth unemployment. But no, it's down because it's dropped by about 1% in the last month. I can give him the latest StatsCan statistics. I'm sure he'll read them, but also good news when it comes to affordability this morning. This morning, the Prime Minister was there at a major announcement. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent Akiawenrek. Well, Madam Speaker, I respect StatsCan, and I have asked for StatsCan's report to be tabled in this House. It confirms that Canada is in a recession, but the government didn't want to let us table that report. But the reality is also that there's bad news from banks. The Bank of Montreal estimates that over the next year, Canada is going to have the worst economic growth among G20 countries. And this government still refuses to talk about a recession. would the minister have the courage, the honour and the dignity to recognise that Canada is indeed the only G7 and G20 country in a recession? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to go back to what my colleagues have said. In the last month, the Canadian economy created 88,000 new jobs. The unemployment rate is down, and the unemployment rate for young Canadians is down as well. It's good news for Canadians. But there's something else we learned this week. We learned that the Government of Canada is investing billions of dollars in infrastructure, including in the tramway in Quebec City. That's going to create over 80,000 good jobs for our people. And you know what, Madam Speaker? The member from the opposition, the member from the Quebec City region, has always opposed that project. He campaigned by promising to take about $3 billion away from the tramway for Quebec, and that's shameful. Order. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Madam Speaker, Ottawa is once again capitulating to pressure from Washington. They're cancelling a royalty increase and allow Netflix, Amazon and others to avoid paying their fair share towards culture here. This is a cause for concern for the Coalition for the Diversity of Cultural Expression. And I quote, Ottawa's decision constitutes a major and deeply troubling setback in the face of pressure from the United States regarding Canada's cultural sovereignty. Madam Speaker, who is in charge of cultural policy in this country? The Prime Minister or Donald Trump? The Honourable Minister. Well, I understand I don't understand why the Bloc wants to talk about this, because the Bloc didn't talk about culture in their election platform or in their budget demands. But I understand that they don't want to talk about the good news about jobs, good jobs numbers in Canada and in Quebec. The economy is creating opportunities for young people and major projects are moving forward. The economy created 88,000 new jobs, and it's in Quebec. In Quebec, where things are good, it has the second lowest unemployment rate among all the provinces, led by the manufacturing sector and by the construction sector, Madam Speaker. And young people, bravo to young Quebecers. It's good news for them. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, you know, we have a lot of proposals for culture. I quote Sartek regarding the Prime Minister's cultural capitulation. This announcement cuts us off at the knees. And it's not us that's saying this, it's artists who are saying this, because it leads us to believe that our industry is nothing more than a bargaining chip. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister had already capitulated on the digital services tax, taking $1.4 billion a year out of the cultural sector. Today he's capitulating on $2 billion a year. Why is he always in such a hurry to capitulate when it comes to securing the future of French language culture in North America? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Well, on this side of the House, we have no doubt, unlike the Bloc, that culture is important, and we are ready to invest in culture. We did it in the budget, a budget that they voted against. So it's clear with the $600 million that we're investing in the sector, with $95 million that we're inviting in exports for our industry, giving increased access to 120 international markets, we are supporting our culture. We know it's important, and the Liberal members from Quebec on this side of the House, we will stand up every day to defend and protect our culture. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister of Canada treats Quebec's culture as nothing more than a simple obstacle to trade. The Government of Quebec has said, and I quote, that in the context of the CUSMA negotiations, this sends the signal that Ottawa is ready to compromise on our culture. Quebec is also considering requiring streaming platforms like Netflix or Amazon Prime to contribute directly, since the federal government is capitulating to the Americans. Do the Liberals realize that they're proving to Quebecers that they can only count on Quebecers themselves to secure the future of our culture? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member across the way for the question. How can the Bloc claim that an investment of $600 million in the cultural sector is bad news? Listen, I see this as great news, and the industry as well. It's supporting a sector that needs our support. We are there for artists, and we will always be there for Canadian artists. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for York-Durham.
Imagine, Madam Speaker, I was pulled over by police on the way here this morning, and I said to the officer, "Officer, I know I was technically speeding, just a couple kilometers over the speed limit, though." I don't think that would work because a recession is a recession is a recession. And Canada is the only G20 country in a recession. And under the hood of that recession is even more bad news. The Parliamentary Budget Watchdog says that Canada's growth has been downgraded for both 2026 and 2027. The base case is now effective stagnation. So why is Canada the only country in a recession?
The Honourable Minister of Defence.
Never seen this in my 22 years in the House, Madam Speaker. I've never seen such good news be disparaged, cast aside, and continue to run down the Canadian economy. 88,000 jobs. Unemployment is down. Foreign direct investment is up. We've dropped the fuel excise tax. We've increased our capital gains exemption. We're making massive investments in housing, in infrastructure, and in defence. In short, Madam Speaker, we have a plan, and that plan is working.
The Honourable Member for York Durham.
Madam Speaker, I've only been here a year, but I've never seen so much bad news be cheered by the government. More Canadians are not working now at the beginning today than they were at the beginning of the year. Fewer youth are working today than they were at the beginning of the year. Business investment continues to lag. In fact, it's below the replacement rate. That means we have lower labor productivity. As Krugman said, productivity is not everything, but in the end, it's almost everything. But it seems like the government doesn't care about that. In fact, they will cheer this bad news. Why is that?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And in the face of global uncertainty and U.S. tariffs, our country and Canada remains strong. And I do want to cite that in the face of this, Canada has created over 147,000 jobs. We've already heard today youth unemployment is going down. Wage growth is outpacing inflation by 4.7%. And Canadians are working. In fact, you know who's leading the way, Madam Speaker? Women. Women are leading. They are working in this country. They are delivering. And that is something to be celebrated. And this exceeds the United States as well, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
So the only leader in the entire G20 to plunge their economy into a recession was exposed by the PBO for leaving out $7 billion out of their deficit projections. That's an extra $150 out of each and every Canadian's pocket. But it doesn't matter to the guy that sends record numbers of Canadians into food banks while he stuffs his face with $200,000 of creme brulee and fine wines on just 3 taxpayer-funded flights. So was the Prime Minister technically misleading, or are we in a full-blown Liberal recession?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I think people are really puzzled at these scripted questions from the Leader of the Opposition. 35, 38 times a day, they stand up and read the same wrong, fake question, yet they fail to defend their votes against the very people they pretend to uphold. And today, in Canadians' bank accounts, we'll see the groceries and essentials benefit, which will provide a single person with a base GST credit of $543. They're against it. We're supporting Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
So his answer of plunging the economy into a recession is to give Canadians $18 a week. And the PBO also exposed this government for having less than 1% chance of meeting their own fiscal target of deficit to GDP ratio. That's a better chance than a Liberal actually answering a question in this place. So will the Prime Minister stop stuffing his face with taxpayer-funded creme brulee and tell us, are we in a technical recession or a full-blown Liberal one?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Immigration.
Madam Speaker, I've known this member for a number of years, and in fact I have a great deal of respect for him. He overcame enormous personal challenges to be in this House, which he's been open about, Madam Speaker. That's why I have respect. But he conducts himself in this way. The Opposition Leader's Office, I guess, has given orders for him to throw insults like this and the rest of it. We're not going to focus on that, Madam Speaker. We're going to engage in a positive approach to politics. And what do we find? Almost 90,000 jobs created, many of which are in the construction sector. He's from Alberta. He talks about the trades. We need to build this country up. That's exactly what we're going to do. We have a plan.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Crowfoot.
Well, Madam Speaker, last Friday we learned that under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country in a recession. And yesterday we learned that there is only a 1% chance that their latest fiscal anchor will hold. So far, the Liberals have refused to acknowledge their own government's reports, and so will they admit today that they caused the only recession in the G20 and that they are already breaking their latest fiscal anchor? Or are they going to say that it's all just a technicality?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, when Conservatives vote against affordability measures and then complain about affordability, Canadians see that as disingenuous. What's also disingenuous is when they talk down the Canadian economy while we're trying to find solutions. The US is Canada's largest trading partner. It only stands to reason that we would have the largest impact. We are building Canadian infrastructure using Canadian labour, Canadian materials. We are building trade corridors with other countries. Madam Speaker, I ask the other party to join us in believing in Canada, in believing in Canadians, and in believing in building Canada's.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Crowfoot.
Madam Speaker, of course we believe in Canada. We believe in Canadians. We don't believe in this Liberal government because they're the only government in the G20 to lead their economy into a recession. This week, we also learned that the government is borrowing $72 billion this year, not $65, as stated in the budget. The Montreal Economic Institute said that the deficit is on track to exceed $117 billion by 2035, and that's even without new spending. So will the Finance Minister admit that this week's reports have destroyed whatever fiscal credibility he thinks that he still might have?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I believe the opposition, I appreciate the opposition has a job to do to critique the government, but as a government, our focus is to build our economy. And that is why, Speaker, we've been working very hard to make sure that we diversify our trade, that we open more markets for Canadian businesses, and the results are coming in just today. It's been reported that 88,000 new jobs have been created. But we're also not leaving people behind. That's why, as of today, the groceries and essentials benefit is going to be coming to people. They will be getting additional up to $533 for a family with 2 kids. This is how we're helping Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Windsor, Tecumseh Lakeshore.
Under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country to fall into a recession. Just by stopping the illegal dumping of cheap subsidized Chinese aluminum, the government could help aluminum extrusion companies to be profitable and provide jobs for hardworking Canadians and put food on their table. Will this Liberal Prime Minister tell aluminum workers that Canada is in a recession or just a technical recession?
Good job. Well done.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, we know the challenges for certain sectors in the Canadian economy on aluminum, on steel, on auto and forestry, and our Minister of Canada-U.S. Trade, our ambassador in Washington, Janice Charette, who's been appointed, they are having engagement with U.S. administration. And the member talked about jobs. I do think it's important to recognize today that there was 88,000 jobs created in the Canadian economy. We know there are challenges in particular sectors, and that's why the Minister of Industry has been helping to support with targeted programs to support workers and those industries that are being impacted. At the same time, we're focusing on building the Canadian economy across this country, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Matapédia. Madam Speaker, a mix-up between 2 government departments is penalizing our businesses and their temporary foreign workers. When our small and medium-sized businesses want to renew their employees' work permits with Immigration Canada, they have to submit an LMIA within 60 days. Except that Service Canada is the one that emits the LMIA, and since it takes them more than 60 days, Immigration closes the files. Result, in Rimouski, 2 workers at Armoire Perrot have no pay. A daycare centre was denied 2 workers after waiting more than 100 days. Will the government stop penalising these people for their own mistakes? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In Quebec, there is a major dependence on temporary foreign workers in our region and in other regions across Quebec. We've put in place a measure that is specific to Quebec where work permits can be extended by 1 year. And I'm very happy to also announce that today we are announcing that this policy in the interest of public will also apply to the spouses and partners of work permit holders. That's good news for many workers across Quebec, and we're continuing to work with the province on this issue. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Matapédia. Madam Speaker, it's simple. Immigration Canada requires an LMIA within 60 days, but the service standard for issuing them is 64 days. It's obvious that it's not working, but Ottawa would rather blame businesses than fix its own mess. It's a madhouse. The government has to extend its deadlines with proof that an LMI application is being processed. Or at the very least, when it closes files due to its own blunders, it should allow them to be reopened at no cost and without having to start from scratch. Is the government going to fix this fiasco? The Honourable Minister. Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And the answer is yes, and we've extended to 90 days the treatment time for those applications for exactly the point that the member raised. Thank you. The Honourable Member. Under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country in recession. In a recession, 3 of the last 4 quarters saw negative growth. Workers are losing their jobs, businesses aren't investing, deficits are going up. At what time can a Liberal Prime Minister admit that there's a recession? Do you have to wait after 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters? Will the Liberal Prime Minister finally tell Canadians if we're in a recession, a Liberal recession, or a technical recession? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Well, Madam Speaker, this week is a good week for Northern Ontario. Well-paying jobs are important, and in the North, there are over 900 businesses that are working in mining services. Premier Mining, a business in my riding, has just announced that it is using the Regional Tariff Response Fund to modernize and increase its activities. In cobalt, there's another country that's just made major investments in their workers, and this week we're happy to see the new action plan for the forestry sector. Madam Speaker, we need to concentrate on what we're going to build together. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Binière. Madam Speaker, what we want is for all Canadian businesses to be able to prosper and develop their businesses. But under this Liberal Prime Minister, well, Canada is the only G20 country in recession. I'll say it again. When the economy slows down, businesses invest less, the state has to intervene more, and it costs more for all Canadians. And they see their debt go up, and they see that it's harder and harder to make ends meet at the end of the month. That's exactly what's happening in Canada right now. Everyone sees what's happening except this Liberal Prime Minister. Will he? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Well, Madam Speaker, today there's even more good news. Today is the first payment of the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefits. For people in my riding, that represents 28,000 residents of Nipissing-Témiscamingue, and that's $950 for people living alone, up to $1,800 for a family of 4. This measure is on top of a number of other initiatives from this government to help Canadians with the affordability crisis. So, Madam Speaker, it's a good day. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Binière. Madam Speaker, how can somebody be so happy about the poverty that Canadians are facing the way this government has just done, when the government is forced to pay so that people can eat? That's a sign that things are not going well. Madam Speaker, we've just heard all the Liberals across the way applaud a measure that's going to help people pay their groceries every month. That's unacceptable. Is that where we're at in Canada today, Madam Speaker? We applaud when the government pays people because they can't afford to buy their groceries? Madam Speaker, if they recognize that we're in a recession, they would do something about it, Madam Speaker. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Well, I have a lot of respect for my colleague, but today I think that he is just peddling unhappiness, because today, with the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit, we are offering $543 to a person living alone as a GST credit, and over $1,000 for a family of 4. These are concrete actions that on this side of the House show that we are working to help families, to help the most vulnerable. When will the Conservatives understand that and stop criticizing everything? We're building a Canada strong over here, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Madam Speaker, already 1 week down the drain. We learned last Friday that Canada is in a recession. The Liberals are stubbornly burying their heads in the sand, and they are playing with words. The PBO yesterday mentioned that this Liberal government has a 1% chance of meeting its budgetary commitments. That means there is a 99% probability of failure. Can this Liberal government stop burying its head in the sand and take effective action, admitting that there is a recession going on. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. I thank my colleague for his question. But do you know what? I meet with the people in my riding, door to door, in community events, and so long as people have some concerns about affordability, they're seeing that we're making efforts and they're saying, keep going, you're on the right path. Today, in fact, 29,600 people, more than that number, are already benefiting from the groceries or will benefit from the groceries and essentials benefit. Over 12,000 people in my riding are benefiting from the dental care program in my riding. These are true, real impacts. The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier, Madam Speaker, it's really unfortunate to hear what I've just heard, to rejoice because you have to give Canadians, the government has to give Canadians money so that they can afford to eat. It's pathetic. Canada is the only country in the G70 to be in a recession. But the Liberals have a long list of excuses. In the meantime, our seniors have to cut back on groceries. Families have to make major sacrifices just to make ends meet. The Liberals need to admit that their policies and their actions aren't working and that they need to find solutions quickly to stop this decline. But first, you need to admit that you're in a recession. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'll admit that given the challenges we're facing today, there is a great deal of work to do. And on this side of the House, we're doing that. We're investing in Canadians. We're investing in businesses. I was very proud to be at the Chamber of Commerce in Manitoba, where businesses and business people were saying, you're on the right track. Keep making these investments. That's a support to us. We're also trying to bring in up to 100,000 new jobs in the seals, the red seals. This will support our industry in all our sectors. Thank you. It's important.
Madam Speaker, the world's economic and trade landscape is undergoing rapid transformations, thrusting countries, businesses, and workers, including those in my riding of the Bay of Quinte, into a period of uncertainty. Our government is responding accordingly, building a stronger and more resilient Canadian economy and protecting jobs and industries. As that plan takes hold, Madam Speaker, we're also offering a bridge and a boost to help make life more affordable. Can the Parliamentary Secretary then update this House on the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit and what it will mean for Canadian families?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister for Immigration.
Madam Speaker, this member is doing outstanding work, first of all, on the committees for Environment and Defence. He brings with him years of experience as a city councillor, as a journalist. He's been a pillar of his community. And of course, just like every Liberal MP, he has advocated for the Groceries and Essentials benefit, a benefit that will go up to, or allocate up to $1,900 for a family of four. And today, checks going out, $533 for a family of four, up to that amount. This is serious support for families because we believe in this country, and that's the approach we take.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country in a recession. And the impact is real, not theoretical. Over the past 4 years in Lethbridge, one of our food banks has experienced an increase of child usage by 112%. That's children going to the food bank. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister spent nearly $200,000 on in-flight catering for just 3 flights. Now, to put that in perspective, that's enough to treat a family of 4 to monthly steak dinners at the Keg for 50 years. Will the Prime Minister finally tell us, are we just in a technical recession or is this a real full-blown Liberal recession?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That member knows very well that the foundations of the Canadian economy remain strong. And I'll give you a couple of good examples of that. Foreign direct investment, 23-year high. Interest rates remain low. Inflation remains at the Bank of Canada window. Manufacturing numbers up. Even productivity in Canada is trending in the right direction. And hot off the press, unemployment's down, job creation's up, and 20,000 people in my riding will get this Groceries and Essentials benefit today. Couldn't be happier.
Member for Lethbridge.
So what this member just said is that those children in my riding that are suffering from poverty and food insecurity, they should be thankful to this government because shame, they've never had it so good. Shame on that member. Shame on that member for claiming that. These are individuals who are finding it very difficult to make ends meet. Food insecurity is rising and Canadians are struggling. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister splurges on fine wines, braised beef, Normandy buttercups, and all sorts of things in his jetting around the world. Is the Prime Minister enjoying his luxurious lifestyle at the expense of taxpayers during a true recession, or is it just a technical recession?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I find it really amazing that this member gets up and is more concerned about debating the price of paper clips than actually trying to help Canadians. She has voted against every affordability measure that has been brought forward. In my riding of Eglinton Lawrence, 37,000 people are going to benefit from this groceries benefit. So are you telling them they don't deserve it? Shame on you.
I remind the honourable member that to speak through the chair, and I'm not telling anybody anything, the honourable member for Parkland.
Well, Madam Speaker, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country to fall into a recession, with economic decline in 3 of the last 4 quarters. Now the Parliamentary Budget Officer is saying that the chances that this Liberal government will achieve its fiscal anchor is at less than 1%. We're on the brink of a major energy crisis with rising inflation from higher energy and higher food prices. They're guaranteed. Canada's in a recession today, and it's not looking good for the rest of the year. So when will this Liberal government reverse course and stop this economic slide?
Stop it. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, this is a government that is hard at work for all Canadians. We have a plan to build Canada strong, and days like today, we are seeing real progress. 88,000 net new jobs. The largest increase in those jobs is in construction. Youth unemployment fell by nearly a point. And in that member's home province alone, 14,000 new jobs, Madam Speaker. Our plan is working. We are hard at work. We're going to keep working for Canadians.
The honourable member for Parkland.
Well, Madam Speaker, great news. This Liberal government's finally taking responsibility for something. If they're taking responsibility for today's job numbers, they must also be responsible for the reason we're in a recession today. They can't have their cake and eat it too. Canada's economic growth is negative. Energy and food prices are rising dramatically. Canadians can't take it anymore. These Liberals promised an economy that would move at speeds not seen in generations, but the only thing we see growing is our massive debt. When will they reverse course and stop failing Canadians?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, what I find quite remarkable is in the Conservative questions, there's never a recognition that the U.S. administration has imposed tariffs on some of our key sectors in this country, which we are continuing to make the case to try to be able to remove them. But the member blows right by the fact that 88,000 jobs were created in May, primarily in the private sector, primarily in construction, 150,000 net jobs this year. We have a AAA credit rating. We have a lower deficit. We have the strongest fiscal position in the G7. We have strong fundamentals, Madam Speaker, and we are focused on building major national projects, including in that member's province, to build this Canada strong, to build this country strong. We'll continue to focus on those plans, Mr.
The honourable member for Cariboo Prince George.
Every Liberal campaigned on the Prime Minister being the man with a plan and an economic genius, but under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country to fall into a recession. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has now confirmed that there is less than 1% chance this government will meet its own fiscal anchor. After an economic decline in 3 of the last 4 quarters, he can't even tell us whether we're in a recession or a technical recession. So I'll ask again, which one is it?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
I missed that, member. Happy to see you again. And as he knows, the foundations of our economy remain strong. And I'll repeat them. Foreign direct investment, 23-year high. Interest rates remain low. Inflation remains in the Bank of Canada window. Manufacturing numbers are up. Productivity, which has been the boat anchor around our economy for years, is trending in the right direction. Hot off the press. Employment's going down, unemployment's going down, and the economy just posted 88,000 jobs. Today, as in his riding, as in mine, and everybody in this room, Canadians are getting the groceries and essentials benefit. Thank you.
The honourable member for Cariboo Prince George.
As a British Columbian, that member knows that more and more British Columbians are out of work because of this Liberal government. Madam Speaker, the Parliamentary Budget Officer is sounding the alarm, saying businesses are postponing expansion plans and investing elsewhere. Under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country to fall into a recession, and Canadians are paying the price. Madam Speaker, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it probably is a duck. I'll give the Prime Minister one more chance. If he's the economic genius he says he is, will he stand and tell us Are we in a technical recession or a recession?
L'honorable ministre.
The Honourable Minister.
I think we can conclude at this point in question period on Friday, the Conservatives did not skip into the House with their usual glee. Why? Because they know that the Canadian economy is proving to be very resilient. The hero of the day is the Canadian worker in manufacturing, in construction, and just for the naysayers, and it bears repeating, Madam Speaker, it is very important for Canadians to know that we have added almost twice, double the jobs per capita of the United States of America since December 2024, 5.4 per thousand versus 2.5. We are outperforming the United States. We're outperforming the G7.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Madam Speaker, despite today's headline numbers, Canada is in a recession. The Prime Minister promised the strongest economy in the G7. Instead, he has delivered the only shrinking economy in not only the G7, but across the entire G20. 3 out of 4 quarters of negative growth. So, will the Liberals simply acknowledge that Canada's economy is weaker after 1 year of this Prime Minister?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I would refer the member to this morning's nonpartisan C.D. Howe Institute's Business Cycle Council to note that his comments are premature. The Canadian economy is actually in a very good position today with 88,000 new jobs created. We can see that this government's plan is working. Lower youth unemployment, lower unemployment for women, and more jobs in construction and manufacturing. This government is building Canadians' economy, and I don't understand why the Conservatives don't want to build it with us.
Honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Madam Speaker, here are the facts. 25,000 net jobs lost this year. Productivity down. Business capital investment down. GDP down, and today's numbers show that wage growth is down, with Canadian workers taking home less. If this is the Prime Minister's idea of a strong economy, what would a weak economy look like?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What's happened in the last year? Our largest trading partner has put in unfair tariffs against this country. The Conservatives try to pretend that that hasn't happened. The largest impact would be to the largest trading partner, but we've planted the seeds of a stronger economy, building Canada strong, more infrastructure in Canada using Canadian materials and Canadian labour, more trading partners. Allow those seeds to bear fruit, Madam Speaker. Instead of talking down the Canadian economy, join us in building Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Kenora, Kiiwetinoong.
Under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada has the only G20 country that is in a recession. We also have the second highest unemployment in the G7, the worst household debt, and the worst housing costs, Madam Speaker. Now, Liberals will say this is just a technical recession, but there is nothing technical about Canadians who are struggling to feed their families, fill their gas tanks, or make their bill payments. So will the Prime Minister tell us, finally, whether this is a Liberal recession or just a technical recession? Which is it, Madam Speaker?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I would remind my colleague that the Bank of Canada and leading economists, including today the C.D. Howe Institute, have cautioned against spreading fear and uncertainty when Canadians are looking for solutions. I'm proud to be part of a government that's focused on supporting good-paying jobs and growing our economy. And I mentioned a moment ago about electric battery materials. In cobalt, investing $100 million to support Canada's critical mineral supply chain and create local jobs. Responsible government supports Canadians when they need it, while managing public finances prudently. Merci.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Artificial intelligence is transforming the way Canadians work, learn, and run their businesses. Students want the skills and the tools to launch their careers. Small businesses want to adopt AI and use it to grow and create jobs right here at home. Can the government explain how the new Canadian AI strategy, AI for All, will help Canadians fully reap the economic benefits of AI and this new technology? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Our strategy establishes a national AI literacy initiative reaching 1 million post-secondary students and 3,000 teachers. It will provide up to 90,000 AI-related jobs and internships for young Canadians. We are also helping small and medium-sized businesses adopt AI through $1 billion programs such as the Regional Artificial Intelligence Initiative and a LIFT program.
Member for Portage-Lisgar.
The Prime Minister said he was going to build at speeds not seen in a generation. He knows that Bill C-69 and other terrible Liberal environmental policies are still on the books, yet the Liberals are taking their sweet time to fix the mess that they themselves created. So now they're bogged down in endless consultations and more of the same old gab fest. The Prime Minister has been in power for more than a year, and he still hasn't fixed any laws that prevent major projects from moving forward. When will the Prime Minister do what is necessary to scrap the Liberals' anti-development laws so we can once again build big things in this country?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, I thank my colleague from Portage-Lisgar for this important question. I have spoken to people in Portage-Lisgar and Brandon in my riding of Manitoba. I was at the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce luncheon a few weeks ago, and all of the business community there, all of the sectors said, major investments are important, keep doing what you're doing. I was really, really proud to support Prairies Can, the economic development agency in our region that was giving financing to a number of projects, over $5 million through Tariff Relief Fund and also through the Prairie Strategic Innovation Fund. Supporting businesses, doing great work on the ground. All of these people are going to get what they need to keep going.
The Honourable Member for Portage-Lisgar.
Our businesses thrive despite Liberal taxes and over-regulation. The Liberals know exactly why we can't build big things in this country. They critiqued themselves in their own discussion document, finally admitting the truth. Quote, federal laws have rules that can make regulatory processes slow. Simply put, it's the Liberals' own anti-development laws that are the problem. It's clearer than ever that this is all just a Liberal illusion. This Prime Minister wants to keep our oil and gas in the ground just as much as Justin Trudeau did. Does the Prime Minister have the courage to fix the mess that they've created, or does he just hope that empty promises will get things built again?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, we have already announced several major projects. We've put shovels in the ground on several more, and there are several more to come. I can assure my honourable friend that whether you live in his province of Manitoba, in Alberta, in British Columbia, au Quebec, in the Atlantic provinces, there are major projects. They are coming. There's a pipeline full of them. The investments keep coming in from around the world. And Madam Speaker, we're going to build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Brandon-Souris.
Just last week, a tragic collision just east of Brandon claimed the life of a 49-year-old woman after a semi-truck failed to stop at an intersection on Highway 110, and our thoughts remain with her loved ones during this devastating time. Since then, reports have revealed that the trucking company involved had its Manitoba safety license revoked in 2021, yet it was able to continue operating in Manitoba under a license issued in another province. The Liberals have known that this licensing loophole exists for some time, so why hasn't the Transport Minister taken any action to close it and ensure preventable deaths like this never happen again?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
We are, of course, saddened, Madam Speaker, at the tragic accident in Brandon, and I express my condolences to the victims, their families, and indeed all the constituents of that member. Highway safety is an incredibly important issue in this country. It is also an issue that provinces have a duty and the jurisdiction to uphold. I want to applaud the Minister of Transportation in Manitoba, who has called for a national collaboration and a database with respect to certification of trucking companies. The federal government stands ready to support this initiative at any moment.
The Honourable Member for Peterborough.
Madam Speaker, when the Canadian economy faces headwinds, Conservatives are quick to highlight the negatives. But when Canadian workers succeed and this side of the House brings good news, their silence is deafening. The reality is that our plan to build a stronger, more resilient Canadian economy is creating more well-paying careers and opportunities for Canadians. Supporting workers and growing the economy shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should be something we can all celebrate. Can the Minister of Jobs and Families update the House on what today's job numbers mean for Canadian workers and families?
Minister of Jobs and Family.
Madam Speaker, may I just start with what a joy it's been to have that hard-working member of Parliament join our benches, and her experience in agriculture and farming is such an asset to the government. Here's a number that's not going to make it into the clips today, I suspect, that the Conservatives usually use to rage farm across this country. In fact, 88,000 net new jobs, Mr. Speaker, announced in May. And, you know, Mr. Speaker, 100,000 jobs for summer students this year. Madam Speaker, I'm sorry, I apologize for misgendering you, Madam Speaker. I will say that it's really important that we stay focused on what Canadians expect us to stay focused on, which is their opportunities in the workforce. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Chatham-Kent Leamington.
Canada is the only G20 country in a recession under the Liberal Prime Minister. Farmers warn that food security begins with protecting valuable farmland, yet the Liberals continue to advance the $90 billion Ultra Rail project despite concerns about its impact on more than 5,500 farms. $2.5 million in bonuses have already been paid before a single inch of track is laid, while Canadians across the country pay and local communities suffer. Is the Liberals' plan for food security to slice up farmland? Is this what they call governing in a technical recession? Or is it really just a technical war on agriculture?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, we are so proud to be pursuing the development of high-speed rail throughout Canada. In fact, we look forward to the day where that member can hail a high-speed train in his sector of the woods in southwestern Ontario. We will, of course, do that by working with farmers and their representatives. We will, of course, do that by upholding principles whereby agriculture continues to flourish in our country. And we do note the Conservatives' opposition to this project. I can tell that member that most Canadians have noted their opposition to that project as well.
Honourable member for Courtney Albany.
Madam Speaker, 5 years ago, the Liberals promised to ban flavoured vaping products that appeal to youth. Health Canada drafted the regulations years ago, and evidence from Canada, Quebec, and the Netherlands shows flavour bans can reduce youth vaping without increasing smoking rates. Yet shelves remain stocked with bubble gum, cotton candy, berry, mango, and watermelon flavoured products designed to attract young people and increase the risk of nicotine addiction. The evidence is clear, and the regulations are ready. Who is blocking these regulations, and when will this Liberal government finally ban these youth-targeted flavoured vaping products?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my friend and colleague across the aisle for his very important question. He works extremely hard, and I really enjoy our conversations around health in the House. Vaping, especially among youth, is a very serious public health issue, and we need to make sure that the vaping industry is not exploiting gray areas that make it easier for youth to get Canadians hooked. And we'll continue to work to prevent youth vaping, and which is why we're enhancing public education and strengthening compliance and enforcement of existing rules. And we'll continue to work with members in this House on this important issue. Thank you.
Vancouver East.
My constituent suffered a debilitating vaccine injury, is in constant pain and permanently disabled. Auxero approved his $26,000 medical and home support costs back in February. He has yet to get reimbursed. He's now broke and being evicted. The health minister says contact the Public Health Agency of Canada. PHAC says they're in transition and won't even look at the file until July. This is unacceptable. My constituent will be homeless and may not survive if he doesn't get help now. Will the minister immediately put in place a system to address urgent cases?
You're here.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank the member for her question. The Vaccine Injury Support Program was created to support vulnerable Canadians, and started in April, the Public Health Agency of Canada has started to administering the program to ensure that it delivers for Canadians who need it, and while ensuring the taxpayers' dollars are being spent appropriately. And I look forward to working with that member on issues that impact her constituents. Thank you.
This brings to a conclusion question period. C'est la fin de la période de questions. Routine proceedings. Tabling of documents. I'll let members maybe take a bit moment to leave the chamber.
If you could dispatch a page to get me the government House Leader when there's a moment. Tabling of documents. Dépôt de documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 36.8a, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's responses to 5